Well, hello, dear friends, and welcome to this evening plenary on day six of World Unity Week, and day six of the 99 Days of Peace through Unity. And we're very excited about the plenary today with two incredible luminaries. We have Miss Audrey Kitagawa and Jonathan Granoff, who are joining us today with a conversation and a dialogue about dancing the dream awake. Dancing the Dream Awake. What a beautiful essence of the message, and we're so looking forward to your sharing. Firstly, Audrey and Jonathan, welcome back to World Unity Week. So let me go ahead and give you guys the full introduction of your incredible biographies. These are two world leaders on the global stage who have been doing incredible work for a long time. So these are longer bios than you would normally find. But let's just go through and have a listen to these incredible life stories. Audrey Kitagawa is cum laude Blackstonian Pre-Law Honor Society graduate of the University of Southern California. She obtained her Juris Doctorate degree from Boston College Law School. She practiced law in Honolulu, Hawaii, and at the time of her retirement was a Martindale-Hubbell AV rated, highest rating for professional and ethical excellence, attorney. She is president and founder of the International Academy for Multicultural Cooperation, president of the Light of Awareness International Spiritual Family, and chair of the Anti-Racism Initiative, chair of the Gender Equality Working Group, and a member of the Advisory Council of the G20 Interfaith Forum. She is the former advisor to the Office of the Special Representative of the Secretary General for Children and Armed Conflict at the United Nations. She is a UN representative for the United Religions Initiative, a trustee for the International Center for Religion and Diplomacy, and a member of the Advisory Council for the Global Security Institute. Audrey has contributed to many publications, including Crossing Worldviews, The Power of Perspective in the Hawaii Japanese American Experience, for the book Learning in the Light, Globalization as the Fuel for Religious and Ethnic Conflict, for the book Globalization and Identity, Cultural Diversity, Religion and Citizenship, the US in Foreign Affairs, Source of Global Security or Source of Global Fear, for the book America and the World, The Double Bind, The Role of Identity in the Rise and Decline of Buddhism in Hawaii, the 50th state of the United States of America, for the Sambodhi Journal and Practice Spirituality and Power of Om, Transformation of Consciousness for World Affairs, the Journal of International Issues. Audrey has been listed in Who's Who in American Law, Who's Who of American Women, Who's Who in America, Who's Who in the World, and Prominent People of Hawaii. She has been installed into the royal family as the Nekoso Hema, that is the Queen Mother of Development, of Ajiamanti in Ghana, West Africa, and has a school which she helped to build named after her in her African name, the Nana Odi Anya Kobe Junior Secondary School. Audrey is a recipient of the Ellis Island Medal of Honor, which celebrates patriotism, diversity, and the importance of immigrants to our nation's economic and social success for her work in multiculturalism, Asian women's history and empowerment, and spiritual leadership. She is the recipient of the Pride of Eurasia Medal and a diploma from the Republic of Kazakhstan Ministry of Education and Science. L.N. Gumilyov Eurasian National University for her outstanding contribution to the development of spiritual culture and education in Eurasia. Audrey is the recipient of the Spirit of the UN Award, which recognizes individuals whose work expresses the core principles, spirit, and vision of the United Nations. She is a recipient of the New York State Assembly citation as a distinguished honoree for her lifetime of selfless service to the state of New York and the international peacekeeping community. She is the recipient of a citation from the Office of the President for the boroughs of Brooklyn, City of New York, for her commitment to community well-being by providing outstanding services and support to local residents, youth, and those in need. Wow. Oh my goodness, Audrey, that is an absolutely unbelievably incredibly rich life of service that you are living and continue to live and serve. We're so honored to have you here in World Unity Week. Thank you. Let me introduce equally distinguished brother Jonathan Granoff. Mr. Granoff is an attorney, lawyer, and international advocate emphasizing the legal and ethical dimensions of human development and security, focusing on advancing the rule of law to address global security and the threats posed by nuclear weapons. He serves on numerous governing and advisory boards, including Lawyers Committee on Nuclear Policy, Fortune Forum, Jane Goodall Institute, the NGO Committee on Disarmament, Peace and Security, Parliamentarians for Nuclear Non-Proliferation and Disarmament, and Middle Powers Initiative. Jonathan has chaired the special session on terrorism and threats to humanity at the Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates in Rome in 2004, where he represented the International Peace Bureau, a Nobel Peace Laureate organization. Granoff has represented the International Peace Bureau at the Nobel Peace Laureate Summits in Rome every year since 2002. He is the recipient of the Rutgers University School of Law Arthur E. Armitage Distinguished Alumni Award and a 2014 nominee for the Nobel Peace Prize. He is a senior advisor and the United Nations representative of the Permanent Secretary of the World Summits of Nobel Peace Laureates, Ambassador for Peace, Security and Nuclear Disarmament of the Parliament of the World's Religions, former adjunct professor of international law at Widener University School of Law, and chair of the Task Force on Nuclear Non-Proliferation and advisor to the Committee on National Security of the International Law Section of the American Bar Association. Mr. Granoff is the award-winning screenwriter of The Constitution, the document that created a nation, and a prolific author. As a screenwriter, Granoff has been featured in more than 30 publications. He has been a featured guest and expert commentator on numerous radio and television programs. He has presented expert testimony in the parliaments of Canada and the United Kingdom, as well as the United States Congress and the United Nations. Granoff has lectured worldwide on the legal, ethical, and spiritual dimensions of human development and security, focusing on threats posed by nuclear weapons. He has practiced law in Philadelphia as an individual practitioner in several medium-sized firms and as in-house counsel in a public company. Mr. Granoff earned his BA, cum laude, from Vassar College and Juris Doctorate from Rutgers University School of Law. Well, we thought it was important to read both of these extensive bios just to really give a full essence and sense of the caliber of the leadership of Miss Audrey Kitagawa and Jonathan Granoff. And without further ado, Miss Audrey, thank you. Welcome back to World Unity Week. Thank you for your partnership of the International Academy and Multicultural Cooperation these many years. And we're looking forward to your sharing today, Dancing the Dream, Awake.
Thank you so much, Ben, for that introduction, and really for this privilege to share in this plenary session during World Unity Week. The theme of this year's event is Dancing the Dream of Unity, Restoration, Healing, and Humanity's Sacred Mission. Jonathan and I will be discussing how we can awaken from the dream itself and come to the understanding of the reality of our true unity. It is really joyous to be with my dear friend of many years, Jonathan, a co-traveler on the spiritual path. And we each have our own fascinating, long-standing relationship with our respective spiritual masters who had great influence in our lives and literally changed the trajectory of our lives. I also want to commend Jonathan for giving an excellent keynote speech yesterday at an exhibit that is in the lobby of the United Nations headquarters in New York City on multiplicity, threats, partnerships, and stories of success. Despite all of the many global challenges that we are increasingly facing, the frameworks that are created that speak to our need to come together in partnerships and cooperation among the many different constituencies and stakeholders that comprise the United Nations indicates success is possible in the recognition of our underlying unity as we continuously aspire to recognize the dignity of each person. Jonathan really exemplifies a deeply spiritual person who deals with these challenges but moves from that heart of compassion, caring, and love for others, which directs and defines his important work in the world. And my congratulations to Jonathan and all of his years of tireless service to humanity. I want to share the following sacred transmissions from my beloved spiritual mother, who said when I first met her, "The body is not real, only God is real. The mind is not real, only God is real. Anything that changes is not real, only God, the changeless changer, is real. Everything in creation changes." 20 years later, before she left her body, she said while sweeping her hands across the sky, "This is all a dream, just a dream." Now, Hindu philosophy has a fundamental concept of Maya, which says the manifest world is an illusion or akin to a dream world. The senses have the limited ability to perceive and discern truth, and we rely more on the appearances of things rather than the truth underlying them. My spiritual mother often said, "Do not give power to appearances, for things are not as they seem." God, in his eternal and absolute aspect, is pure consciousness, and his creation in a multitude of manifest structural formations within that consciousness. These manifest structural formations includes human beings. And Maya arises from Prakriti, nature, or Pradhana, primal energy. Ma means the source, the cause, and Ya means that which proceeds, goes, walks, or spreads out. Thus, Maya means that which issues forth, expands, or arises from the source, Ma, the universal mother, or the feminine energy of Shakti. Hinduism considers the world to be unreal in an eternal and absolute sense. The material universe is a temporary creation. It changes from moment to moment and is never the same. Thus, one day you may have peace and the next day war. One moment you're happy and the next unhappy, depending on the state of events going on in your external world. For a spiritually awakened person who begins to comprehend the illusion of appearances, the material world presents itself as a stage in which things appear and disappear according to the state of our consciousness, awareness, and inclination. When people are caught in the maze of things or samsara and develop an attachment with them, they become vulnerable to ignorance and suffering. Lord Buddha is considered to be the awakened one. He understood that the external world is impermanent, illusory, and has suffering. He shared about the Four Noble Truths, which are: 1, suffering exists. 2, it has a cause. Attachment is recognized as a primary source of human suffering because it binds individuals to impermanent phenomena, leading to dissatisfaction and distress. 3, there can be an end to suffering. And 4, the Eightfold Path to Enlightenment is a way to end suffering. The Eightfold Path consists of having right understanding, right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. In order to accomplish the Eightfold Path, an ecology of practices in daily life is recommended. Most religious practices entail an ecology of practices that are designed to help the aspirant develop more deeply into a wholesome, loving, and compassionate person who can then make positive contributions to the world and the community within which he or she lives. Basically, they can be categorized in 3 major areas. Number 1 is ethical conduct. Ethical conduct is built on the vast conception of universal love and compassion for all living beings, on which the Buddha's teachings are based. The Buddha gave his teaching for the good of the many, for the happiness of the many, out of compassion for the world. According to Buddhism, for a man to be elevated, there are two qualities that he should develop equally: compassion or karuna on one side, and wisdom or panna on the other. Here, compassion represents love, charity, kindness, tolerance, and such noble qualities on the emotional side, or the qualities of the heart, while wisdom would stand for the intellectual side, or the qualities of the mind. Wisdom and compassion, however, are inseparably linked together. Now, in ethical conduct based on love and compassion are included the three factors of the Noble Eightfold Path, namely right speech, right action, and right livelihood. The Buddhist ethical and moral conduct aims at promoting a happy and harmonious life, both for the individual and for society. This moral conduct is considered the indispensable foundation for all higher spiritual attainments. No spiritual development is possible without a moral basis and having an ethical compass. The second is mental discipline. Mental discipline, in which are included the three other factors of the Eightfold Path, namely right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Through this practice, the mind is trained and disciplined and developed. Meditation, which trains the mind, as an important aspect of developing that mental discipline and helping to purify our mind to help it to become wholesome. Thus, the mind is trained and disciplined and developed in these daily practices. Number 3 is wisdom. The remaining two factors, namely right thought and right understanding, constitute wisdom in this Noble Eightfold Path. This ecology of daily practices means that one adopts a way of life that leads to self-discipline in body, word, and mind, self-development, and self-purification. It is a path leading to the realization of ultimate reality. Now, most sacred traditions have an ecology of daily practices that are meant to instill within the aspirant a way of life that will lead one's ability to live life awaken. John Vervaeke, who is a professor of cognitive science and Buddhist philosophy at the University of Toronto, in a program called American Thought Leaders, was talking about how people can be akin to zombies. As we see the rise in popularity of zombie movies, especially in the film The Walking Dead, he sees the Walking Dead are decaying and drifting and devoid of meaning in their lives. My spiritual mother also talked about those who are sleeping and not awake are like walking zombies. But when the spiritual heart is awakened, we come out of this zombie-like state. Professor Vervaeke posits that many people feel disenfranchised from political leaders, experience loneliness, and have fallen into despair as society has become increasingly secularized. He feels a loss of religion, which provide an ecology of practices in daily life, have left persons adrift and feeling disconnected from themselves and others. We therefore feel that our lives have no meaning. Religion, on the other hand, and spiritual practices not only gives us an overarching worldview, but places self-empowering methodologies of practices to help one live a moral, ethical life and to develop the heart of compassion and caring for others and to undercut self-alienation. He maintains that this increasing secularization of society that has placed so much of who we are in the external world has left a deep and gaping hole in our hearts. We need practices, a whole living system for ameliorating the seeming meaninglessness of our lives and enhancing the flourishing of our lives through purpose, which can be provided through these ecology of practices, which helps us to connect with inner wisdom. When we lose our connection to an authentic spiritual practice and from the Sangha or community of practitioners, we can feel estranged from ourselves and our own inner wisdom that always acts as a guidepost for daily life. People become upset that they do not feel connected to themselves or to others and fall into a state of profound alienation from oneself and others. Professor Viveki encourages everyone to not give up hope. Likewise, Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, concludes that the meaning of life is found in every moment of living. Life never ceases to have meaning, even in suffering and death. In his experience as a survivor in the Nazi concentration camps of World War II, Frankl concludes from his experience that a prisoner's psychological reactions are not solely the result of conditions of his life, but also from the freedom of choice he always has, even in severe suffering. The inner hold a prisoner has on his spiritual self relies on having a hope in the future, and thus once a prisoner loses that hope, he is doomed. Frankl maintained that meaning was a central motivational force in human beings. He indicated the three ways in which purpose to each person's life can be obtained. One, the completion of tasks. Two, caring for another person. Three, or finding meaning by facing suffering with dignity. Frankl observed that among the fellow inmates in the concentration camp, those who survived were able to connect with a purpose in life to feel positive about, and who then immersed themselves in imagining that purpose in their own way, such as conversing with an imagined loved one. According to Frankl, the way a prisoner imagined the future affected his longevity. Ultimately, for Frankl, love is the only way to grasp another human being in the innermost core of his personality. No one can become fully aware of the very essence of another human being unless he loves him. My spiritual mother said, God is love, and that there is only one power in the universe, and that power is God. God who alone is a doer, creator, destroyer, and remover of all our sorrows. The path to awakening then entails an authentic spiritual practice that becomes foundational to one's daily life and helps one to achieve ethical conduct, discipline, and wisdom that ultimately shapes how you conduct yourself in every moment that you live. These daily practices ultimately sets the trajectory of our own lives. We awaken to the reality of God in our daily lives through every loving thought, word, and action. And when we awaken, we find that in this one power is our true unity, because with all, we came from that singular source and are at all times within it, and are in reality never parted from it. In Hinduism, Brahma is a supreme being, the one self-existent power, the reality which is the source of all beings and all knowing. Enlightenment is recognizing that all things are united. And I end now with this beautiful iterations of the Maha Mantra, the Gayatri Mantra, which is the mantra of enlightenment. I meditate upon the supreme energy, Gayatri Devi, who has a supreme quality of playing in the creation of all the worlds and who induces noble thoughts in the hearts of everyone. O creator of the universe, we meditate upon thy supreme splendor. May thy radiant power illuminate our intellects, destroy our ignorance, and guide us in the direction of enlightenment by purifying our inner hearts. You who are the source of all power, whose rays illuminate the world, illuminate my heart so that it too can do your work. Let us commune with the luminous light of consciousness that sustains all the worlds, that it may inspire our liberation. We meditate on that light of the luminous God Savitir, who is the inspirer of all beings, their inner self, and is the creator of the universe. We meditate on that adorable light, which is a self of the Supreme Lord of the universe. It is a giver of knowledge and destroyer of ignorance. It is a light of the Supreme Brahma itself. May that light enlighten us. May we all achieve our true purpose in life, which is God realization, and awaken from the dream of Maya. May we all live life awake. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. At this time now, I will turn the floor over to Jonathan so you can also hear his words of wisdom. Jonathan?
May Audrey's words of sharing resonate and nourish us. The source of those words that we just heard from our beloved, wonderful sister. There are places that the senses cannot go that the mind can go. There are places that the mind cannot go that the intellect can go. There's places that the intellect cannot go that wisdom can go. There's places that wisdom cannot go that grace can go. And there are places that even grace cannot go that love can go, because love alone can take us home. And behind the deep meaning of all the words is a resonance that comes from the infinite light of the soul that is always connected to source. And the connectivity of source to the light, to the meaning, to the resonance, to the word, to our lives is the quality of love. So everything that awakens us to move from the love of that which changes to the love of things, to the love of reality, is really essential. The beginning of the path of awakening is the clarity of intention to awaken. At first, the world is just a series of experiences: eating, sleeping, defecating, procreating, and dying. Thinking that's all there is would be the same as burning a pile of rose seeds, saying, they produced light and heat and became carbon. That's their purpose. The human being is very much like that. We are just a material that goes back to earth. Or if the seed of our humanity is nurtured by the qualities of love, compassion, patience, tolerance, the qualities that are always connected to the divine, it's nurtured with those qualities. Then just like the rose seed that is planted in the earth appropriately and watered, we also, but in a much more amazing way, will manifest beauty and fragrance. For many, the world is just a series of experiences of trying to avoid pain and find pleasure, avoid shame and find honor, avoid chaos and find some sense of temporary security. And then others realize it's just sort of a play with just patterns that repeat: tragedy, comedy, pathos, romance. In the winter, it's tragedy. The autumn is pathos. The summer is humor. The spring is romance. And there's different levels of these phenomena. the tragedy of losing things in this world and the tragedy of actually death and losing the world. And then there's the romance of objects and people, and then the romance pursuing God. And then some people realize that this play of the world, in which everyone is acting and judging themselves and praising and blaming themselves, is starred with this character called me. And this character called me is not who we actually are, because there's something seeing this character and realizing its temporality. It's being only associated with things that disappear. But that consciousness that sees the meaning in the plays and decides to find meaning in their life, and thus pursues those qualities that bring us together as human beings, and discovers that those same qualities that bring us together as human beings, love, compassion, patience, tolerance, those are the exact same qualities that bring us together with the luminosity of the soul within ourselves. And the qualities of arrogance, vanity, pride, selfishness, anger, falsehood, jealousy, miserliness, greed, passions, they separate us by affirming the illusion of being separated. How perfect is this justice, that those whose hearts are opened, who make space for grace, whose hearts are filled with the qualities, can fulfill the human journey and realize source. And then life becomes like a university of always learning from within oneself and discerning the presence of the divine within our hearts and bringing it into action and changing and writing the play of our lives, taking, in a sense, taking control and taking responsibility. Ultimately, of course, with the outcome of all of what we do is in God's hands, but what we are in the moment, what we intend, what we truly intend, that's in our hands. And then that university is filled with wondrous lessons. And once the intention is set on liberation of the soul and merging with God, lessons are given to us. Things rearrange so that that seed can blossom into beauty and fragrance, and our full humanity can be realized. And then that university turns into a place in which the presence of the divine is there, and then it turns into a prayer mat. And the heavens are the dome, of the chapel. And those heavens have no limit. And our prayer mat is everywhere we are. And then our life is very different than simply eating, sleeping, defecating, and dying. Once that prayer mat happens, then we discover that true prayer cleanses and awakens love and compassion. And true compassion leads us to feel the suffering and joy of others as our own, and thus to serve and not be so preoccupied with pettiness, and to serve. And if you do serve, you do serve. You can't save the world, but you can serve. The saving is in God's hands. Serving is in our hands. If you serve selflessly and with devotion, even just giving someone a glass of water or devoting your entire life to service, all your skills, all your resources, all of your intentions, truly serving love and serving. If you manifest that service, the consequence of that is a very clear conscience. The consequence of a clear conscience is inner peace. And the consequence of inner peace is a space for grace. And in that grace is the level of consciousness called wisdom. And in wisdom is the ability to trace the source of the qualities, trace to the source of the qualities, which is God, which is Ati, the beginning of all and everything, the source, and Anati, without any beginning, without qualification, without source. And a person doing that will want to develop skills that are of benefit to others. And a person engaged in that pursuit will discover a truth that that is so important, so wonderful, so beyond qualification and limitation and comprehension by the intellect. They will discover that we live in God and God lives in us, and that duality is the illusion. I met someone who did this, Guru Bawa Mahayadin. He was beyond the differences of religion, race, caste, and I and you. And he demonstrated that a person in that state literally experiences the joy and sorrow of others as their own, and is thus always living to benefit that one life with which they have, into which they've awakened. There's 4 steps. In Hinduism, it's Sharya, Kriya, Yogam, and Jnanam. Right and wrong, developing the character within the actions of spiritual actions, union with the divine, and jnanam, wisdom, or merging into the consciousness. In the Sufi tradition in Islam, it's Shariat, Tariqat, Hakikat, Marifat. And Shariat is not, as the world understands it, we're talking about reality. It is knowing within oneself what is good and bad. It is the awakening of conscience. And then one realizes that there are qualities that need to be developed and characteristics that need to be nurtured within us. And those qualities become our work. That is the work of our practices. That is the work of our prayers. That is the work of our working in community. That is the work of working for peace and being the peace that we want to see. That is that work. And if that work is done correctly, then that level of consciousness that can discern the source of those qualities awakens. Hakikat is, or yog, is reality, is the perception of the unity of being, that there's one electricity illuminating all of the appliances in the house. And if that's realized, then marifat is that consciousness that guides the flower to catch the sunlight, that guides the infant to come into this world with an open heart and love, that guides us to tear away the borders of our hearts. It guides us to a joy and bliss that you can't limit. It's a knowing in which one talks without talking, sees without seeing, acts without acting, that it is letting God be the musician and we are the instruments. That can be done in anything we do, in any job we have, turning from love of self to selfless love. That consciousness will be what emerges. As my teacher, Bawa Mahayadin, said, "Oh, human beings, you think you can know all things solely by your investigation. There is, however, a truth that governs such knowing. That truth is this: the state of silence will be invaluable to you. Let the form of divine luminous wisdom grow from this inner silence. See yourself as the consciousness within the form of divine luminous wisdom. That is you. And that state is one. It is that which is the all-pervading, radiant effulgence." So Audrey and I both share a passion to bring the small taste of that state. A small taste of that state makes a person a good one. It's not performative, it's transformative. And then you want to use the gifts that you have to glorify the presence of God in this world. There are many good causes and many good ways to do that, to try to do that. But it's very dangerous to drive a car when you're asleep. The most important first thing is to make it our intention to realize God, as Jesus said, is love. To realize what makes us human, according to the Buddha, the first noble truth is that we all suffer, and we're all in this together, and that we can have compassion without fear. Muhammad, in all but one verse of his transmission in the Quran, begins, compassion and mercy is God, the name of God, the nameless, the formless, the infinite, but connected to us with compassion and love. So my prayer is that we allow the blessing of that glorious gift of compassion and love to clean our hearts, to make space for grace, and to allow the infinite creator that's made us human, that gave us the gift of taste, touch, vision, hearing, witnessing, knowing, the light of the luminosity of the soul, and the calling to return and become fully human. May we honor that blessing by allowing it to guide us, to nurture us, to fulfill us, and to let us be examples. That's what the world needs more than anything, examples of real human beings. And then only that, thou art that is that, and that is God. All praises are to that glorious, mysterious secret that we live within God and God lives within us. All praises to that mystery. Amen. Audrey, let's talk about how we can help and serve now.
Well, thank you so much, Jonathan. Every moment that we live is an opportunity to serve now. And of course, in many traditions, it is through selfless service, or as the Hindu word, Sanskrit word seva would say, it is selfless service to God. So if we recognize that God, the life force, is inherent within each living being, and that we all come from that same source, then we practice through loving service in the development of our hearts of compassion, kindness, caring, and as you said, mercy for each other. So it is in selfless practice that we forget about the little self, the little me, the absorption, the self-interested self, and to come to the bigger world in this selfless service, to drop all ego in that service, and to know that we do not serve for self-aggrandizement, for recognition, but it is to be able to give our heart of loving devotion to the divine source who created all there is. And Jonathan, you spoke about one electricity that lights up all the appliances in the world. And so too, my spiritual mother said, it's like electricity, this one great source. You have to connect to the source. And so if we are instruments in form and structure, then that instrument comes alive and is able to fulfill its purpose through our connection to the source. So she always says, do not cut the lifeline. Ensure that you stay connected to the divine source, because it is from that divine source that we actually have this sacred gift of immortal, eternal life. And so in all ways, in every way, in every moment that we live, we express our gratitude and thanksgiving and give all praise and all glory to that source of all life, and whose very life is within us, the closest of all. Every breath we take is a breath of God, and every heartbeat is a heartbeat of God. And we are inseparable from God. and we are inseparable from each other because we all come from the one source. And so, Jonathan, I think the years of being with an enlightened master makes a great deal of importance in being able to guide us in our daily lives, because I can honestly say that until I met my spiritual mother, who had the key to awaken my spiritual consciousness, that my life was completely transformed. And I think you can say the same thing as well, Jonathan. And of course, over the years, how they disciplined us and taught us and gave us through this pure and perfect love through every sacred transmission, also imparted within us this moral compass and direction that the open awakening of the spiritual heart can give. So, what I see, even though I have never had the privilege of meeting Bawa Mahayadin, your master, there is, when you have an authentic master, you recognize that master as the pure embodiment of that divine love. And so, as the devotees of that master, we also carry within us that electricity that awakens us, gives us meaning and purpose in life, and allows us to be able to really seek out our true purpose in life, which ultimately is God realization. And I think you, Jonathan, in all the ways that you have demonstrated the not only the articulation, but the gifts that you have, the many gifts that you have, to bring it through the work that you do. I have to say that, you can share countless stories of love in action that were given to you by your spiritual master, as was given to me.
And I'm certain that that the mother would have reminded you before she left that what she actually is doesn't leave. One of the last conversations I had with Bao was, he said, "What are you worried about?" He was dying. And I said, "You're dying, and I have such a long way to go." And then he said, "Oh, are you going anywhere?" "I'm not going anywhere. I'm just taking my shirt off. I'm just turning my hand over. It will be so much easier for me to teach from within the heart of people that are coming to the end of their world and wanting to find God." I know you and I met someone who interestingly, karmically, he was not your guru or mine, but affirmed the oneness of the teacher, the oneness of the sheikh, the oneness of the master, the oneness of the light that teaches all. Our friend Dada Vaswani. And the first time I met him, we were at an event in New York, and I didn't have a ride back to New Jersey, and he came up to me afterwards. He was about 87 at the time, and said, "Do you need a ride home?" And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I'll give you a ride." I said, "Where are you going?" He said, "I'm going to Englewood, New Jersey. That's where I needed to go." We got in the car, and he said, "I'm tired. I'm 87. I'm very tired. I have a few hundred people coming. You'll conduct the darshan." I said, "Dada, you just met me. I mean, how could they're coming to see you?" He said, "Don't worry. Let God do it." I was sort of taken aback. And then he said to me, "Your guru is talking to me. You tell me whether I hear him correctly." And he said, "With every breath, not I. I'm not the breather. I didn't make this world. I didn't make life. I'm not separate. Only thou, only God. With every breath, only God." And then he looked at me and he said, "Is that what he said to you?" Now, that wasn't similar what he said to me. That was exactly what he said to me. And I've met several other people who proved to me that if you take a cup of water and you throw it in the ocean, it is the ocean. The wave realizes itself when it bows down. And masters are those amongst us who have bowed down, who bowed down and taken the wave of individuality and merged it into the infinite ocean of God's compassion. And they learn from and through us from within that compassion. So now you could take an appliance and take it to the stream, take it to the Hudson River and stick it in the water. It's flowing, it has energy, but it wouldn't light the appliance, it wouldn't light the lamp. You have to extract the electricity from the flow of the water. And the practices that we have, the disciplines that we have of sifting ourselves from that which causes us to be separate and affirming that which reminds us of our unity, that is the process of extracting the electricity from the flow of consciousness in our lives. That's the process of sifting the stream for the gold. Not enough to just get the gold. You've got to keep sifting and go back to the mother lode. Go back to source. What is the source of this moment? What is the source of our lives? Now, there are principles that come from that integrate that inner process with our outer lives. That's called ethics. And there's an ethical norm found in every single religion of the world that affirms unity. Treat the lives of others as you want to be treated, or refrain from doing harm to others as you would not want them to do to you. The sum of Dharma in the Mahabharata is called that. That is the sum of our duty. In the Jewish tradition, Hillel says, this principle is the law, everything else is commentary. You can find it stated in the Native American traditions, in Socrates, in Confucianism, in Taoism, in Jainism. That is always there. And that has always been a spiritual admonition for the individual, because it's that quality that leads us to see the human family as one. And that has always been a spiritual admonition. The world is one family. It's from the Upanishads. It's always been true. It's always the first step. You have to see, without religious differences, without racial differences, without class, but where we are in our unique moment of this birth, all of us share this karma. That spiritual admonition has now become a practical necessity, because a nation or a group cannot protect the climate, cannot stop denuding the forests, cannot protect the oceans. And the oceans provide 60 to 80% of the oxygen necessary for human beings and other sentient beings. And we're affecting it. And we can only protect these things and stop the spread of nuclear weapons by working beyond the borders of nation, beyond the borders of religion. And if we really want to do it, we're really committed out of love to saving this precious planet and this precious, wondrous gift of humanity, we have to work at a level in which our hearts don't have borders. I had a political mentor, Audrey. I had my spiritual teacher, and he was also the most practical person I ever met, was Bawa. But there was a great political leader that I worked with. I worked with some really good ones like Mikhail Gorbachev, but Senator Alan Cranston. And he used to say about nuclear weapons, they're unworthy of civilization. But the main point that he shared with me, in addition to said, don't sweat the small stuff. Bawa said, the small stuff doesn't even exist. Only God exists. He said, look at the sky. The firmaments go on forever. There may be life in other places, but we know there's love here, and it's worth everything to preserve it. And we can't preserve it unless we become it. And that's our task. And that's the awakening from the dream. If we melt our hearts and make space for grace, the grace of luminosity will come. Just as surely as there is gravity, there is grace in this world. Just as surely as there is winds on the ocean, you can't catch the wind unless you unfurl the sails. The sails to catch the winds of grace are the sails of our hearts. And that's our job. That's what we have to do. God will provide the grace. The master will provide the grace. The teacher will provide the grace. but we have to unfurl the sails of our hearts to catch it.
Yes, thank you so much, Jonathan, for mentioning Dada Vazwani, for he really was an authentic saint. And how wonderful that Dada spoke with you in the car ride back to Inglewood. And, you know, I have to say, when Dada visited me in Melbourne, Australia, he came with a group of his devotees to my hotel room, and we paid our respects to each other by bowing. And for 45 minutes, we sat down together, and there were absolutely no words exchanged. We sat in complete silence. And at the end of our time together, he stood up and we bowed to each other. And, you know, he had the most beautiful eyes and face. And with his eyes looking at me with such love, he said, "Please bless me." And he was just the embodiment of humility and the embodiment of love. And, you know, all the things that we've been sharing today says that ultimately it is up to each individual to take responsibility for the development of our spiritual lives, which is the foundation of our lives, and move from that place of our heart. For God is within us, the closest of all. And every moment that we live is an opportunity to practice, 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 and to hoist that sail to catch the breath of God that is already within us, and to have that sense of awe and wonderment, to sit in the silence with the divine. And it is that wonderment and awe that speaks to us with the words of wisdom and ever guides us through our conscience. And I know both you and I are great lovers of Rumi, who actually, a lot of people interpret his poetry as, you know, human love, romantic love. And he has, you know, his poetry and his books have outsold Shakespeare over the years. And I wanted to share this poem that he wrote, The Alchemy of Love, because he was actually talking about his love for God and the madness that he felt in his search for God and having found God, and the pain of being away from his true love. And this poem is called The Alchemy of Love. And it says, "You come to us from another world, from beyond the stars and void of space, transcendent, pure, of unimaginable beauty, bringing with you the essence of love. You transform all who are touched by you. Mundane concerns, troubles, and sorrows dissolve in your presence, bringing joy to ruler and ruled, to peasant and king. You bewilder us with your grace. All evils transform into goodness. You are the master alchemist. You light the fire of love in earth and sky, in heart and soul of every being. Through your loving existence and non-existence emerge. All opposites unite. All that is profane becomes sacred again." So thank you so much for this opportunity. And yes, Jonathan, you wanted to say a few words.
Yes, I did. Just before you did that, what came to me was we have weaponized, because of fear, worshiping fear, we have weaponized the created realm from the smallest particle all the way to the firmaments in the heavens. Out of fear, we've developed weapons of mass destruction that can destroy this gift. Out of fear and a lack of gratitude, we've made things to say, "Oh God, it's not good enough what you've given us. We want to be masters over this." And Rumi's admonition to see it clearly, to see that from the smallest quark, the subatomic, the wondrous behind it all, as our dear friend Hans-Peter Duhr, the great physicist, said, behind it all, one of the creators of quantum mechanics is a good friend of Audrey's and mine, said, behind it all is the pure intention of love. And if we want to see the meaning of our lives, if we want to see the mystery, beyond all the words, nouns, and verbs, the direct experience of it, the doorway to that is within ourselves. And the first step is to realize how great it is to have a human birth. First, we wake up in the morning and say, I thank you, I thank you, I thank you for being born a human. And then, if we're good and open, the next step is to bring this breath into the remembrance, to bring our intentions into the remembrance, and then discover. Bawa told me God will take 10 steps toward us if we take one toward him. Dada said to me, the world's gotten very crazy. He's now taking 100. So let's all walk together and take those steps into that great, wondrous school of divine blessings. Thank you, Ben, and thank you, Audrey. Well, it's so wonderful to be with people where you can speak your heart and know that it will resonate with the other instruments. It's so blessed to bring us together, Ben, and the people that are in this community are truly gifted with the grace of knowing that there is a blessing to be had.
Yes, indeed. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Jonathan Granoff, Audrey Kitagawa. We are richly blessed to have such incredible wisdom, and through you to touch the wisdom of the Divine Mother and Bawa himself. What a privilege and what a joy to be experiencing their presence here in this community. Thank you so much. Please indulge me here. We have a brother, Andrew Kane, who has a poem that is on his heart very strongly to read in closing for today. It's a poem about a dream that has come true. And Andrew, who has been a lifelong peace builder, dedicated and devoted to this journey, is standing up and saying, let me read this poem to close this amazing session. So, Jonathan, Audrey, with your grace, with your blessing, please, Andrew,
Yes.
let's bring you into a 1 box to read, or a 3 box to read this poem.
Thank
Indeed.
you. This is called Dream a Dream Come True. I dream a dream where my reality is the width of my fantasies, where there are no limits, no doubts, full of love and gratitude, to let go of what was and open a new chamber for growth, expansion, and manifestation of my highest intent, to share my dreams with the world, where my reality is by the width of my fantasies everlasting, where no limits apply and all boundaries are met with circumstances and compassion. Manifestation of my highest intent is to share my deepest dreams for heaven on earth, materialized, where oneness is one for all, and unity is in all communities across the great divide, connecting all land to see that indeed we are all one, connected to the Heart Mother, beating as one, to all living creatures and plants, water and land united, humans seeking the path of connection like never before, time to spread our wings with our multidimensional selves, no limits, full throttle ahead. I dream a dream where my reality is the width of my fantasies, where there are no limits, full throttle ahead, ahead like the sky is blue, like night and day, and sunshine and moonshine. Shine our lights with the light of the sun, and the light of the moon and stars, like the fire in the fireplace. Ignite our fire higher. Our heart chakra is ready to expand and rejoice, to fill our souls with honey, sweeter than any taste you know of, finer than any grain of salt. The minerals and crystals speak to us. The waters of the world need love too. The trees need a hug. The animals and first peoples have been preaching this message for thousands of years, but we were sleeping. The sleeping giants awakened, and time at last for my dreams to come true. I dream a dream, and the time has come now. It is here to let go of what was and be the light of the world. We each share this light. So let us shine on, sweet diamond glory. Shine on, shine on, shine on, shine our light, and be the light, the peace, the way to return home. Still breathing, keeping the dream alive. Welcome home, everyone. We are one. I just want to quickly say that all of the work that I got starting in 1998 is about the prophecy that we're in right now, awakening humanity to oneness and unity consciousness. And I've just observed everything that's been going on these past decades, and I've been mostly silent. But this 300-page book that I have is unpublished, and I got to publish it now. So thank you, everybody. And we are one.